Today on the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, we are discussing Daredevil, Born Again, Season 1, or is it 4? Or is it 1, or is it 4?
Who knows?
Episode 8, Isle of Joy. All that and more after this.
Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. My name's Matthew Carroll.
And I'm Jeff Randall, finally. I'm Jeff Randall.
And I'm J. Scotty St. Clair.
Hello, my friends. Hello. So this episode, man, go away if you don't want spoilers, because we're jumping right in. We record these late, so we're going to just get into it.
Someone got shot.
This might be my favorite episode of the season. I love this episode so much.
It's great.
Okay, you think so? Your favorite episode of the season?
Yeah, it just really had me hooked the whole time. I was really excited about all the Poindexter stuff. The ending shocked me to my core in a way that didn't disappoint me because it was so stupid and so Matt Murdock's character. Like when a character can do something, that's so against everything I would choose, and I believe it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That he would do it to his core.
Like in a damn it, Matt kind of situation.
Yeah, and Poindexter said it. Bounce Devil said it earlier in the episode. He said, isn't it what a good man does? Defends his greatest enemy. And Absolutely. Then the episode ends with him diving in front of a bullet for Fisk, which, like, I don't know if they've ever done that in comics, but that feels like an iconic, that felt like an iconic comic book panel to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I will never forget.
Thing to do.
It is such a Daredevil thing to do. And it's so stupid. I would never do it. I think Fisk deserves it. Shoot him. Sure. Great. Sure, if you can stop the bullet some other way, great. But I ain't putting my body there. Like, no, I'm not trading my life for Fisk's. But that's who Matt Murdock is. His, like, confluence of his belief in defending everyone, even his enemies, like Poindexter says, his religious belief in the sanctity of all life, and then his, like, Daredevil man of action all coming together to do the stupidest thing, and I love it so much. It is such a great ending to the episode.
It's hard for me to be on Matt's side or be against him. I'm torn. I'm torn because like it is, technically the right thing that everybody deserves due process. And if you've done bad, the law is supposed to be like followed, and you're not supposed to take it into your own hands. But Fisk has shown that doesn't work. That doesn't work to put him in his rightful place, prison or whatever,
right?
wherever you think that rightful place may be. But Fisk has shown that doesn't work for him. So like. It almost requires crossing a certain line, but then It's a slippery slope.
Well, that's the whole question of the first series, and it's a question he's already answered, and he had a chance to kill Fisk, and he decided not to do it. But it's a different level to say, I am going to take a bullet for you, is a different level than, and I love it. I love taking his ideology to such an extreme that it's utter ridiculousness. And I just love it so much. What do you think of this one, Jay Scotty?
Well, I'm just really delighted to hear that you liked it as much as you did, because I felt like a lot of the DNA and the energy and even the filmmaking matched last week's episode. And a little birdie told me that you didn't like last week's episode, and you just didn't want to tell me on air.
Well,
to the episode.
Yeah. I last week when you said you loved it as your favorite, I was like, man, it wasn't that I still didn't feel that way. It was that I was like. It was maybe second guess it. Like maybe I didn't see something that after rewatching it, I was like, yeah, it is my least favorite of the season. I didn't hate it. It's just my least favorite of the season.
Which I think is totally fair. But I found myself, as I was watching this episode, I was wondering, I was like, I wonder how Matt is going to feel about this one, given how he felt about episode 7. Yeah. So I found myself, questioning what is the character arc for this one. And it was a great one because the whole episode, he's telling Heather, he's a monster. Fisk is a monster. He's a monster. Mm-hmm. I don't think he ever came around that Fisk is not a monster. It's just
no.
Vanessa is a monster too, and he just underestimated the monstrosity of Vanessa there too. So it's just a credit to the show. I called a lot of the things, and I felt like certain things that took place were somewhat predictable. Feels like a little bit of a dig, but things were just kind of falling into piece the way they felt like they should. But those final 10 minutes, I was on the edge of my seat. I knew Bullseye was going to be there. I knew he was going to be targeting somebody, but I never would have guessed that it would have ended up with Matt taking the bullet for Fisk. I thought Vanessa was going to get taken out. I thought maybe Heather was going to be collateral damage. Anything else, I just did not see that, and it was wonderful.
I was so scared for BB. She was just off the dance floor, and she was like, to me, like such a target of like that would be tragic for the second to last episode. I think Ben Urich dies in the second to last episode of the first season, so I was like seeing the parallels of that, and I was like, oh no, please don't let it be BB. And I said out loud, someone's gonna die. Like this scene is set up for someone to die. I was wrong, but like it's just way better. Daredevil getting shot for Fisk is so good.
I kept expecting Matt to not like recognize where he was going to shoot, and for some reason I was like, he's obviously going to shoot Vanessa and also get Matt. Like it's going to go through Vanessa and hit Matt, and like that was where I thought it was going, and I was surprised, but I did call that Matt got hit.
Okay,
just in a different way.
Right.
Yeah, I did think there was definitely a moment I thought it was going to go through Vanessa's back, like, and he was either going to get hit or Vanessa was going to die right in his arms, which would have been like, maybe Fisk could have blamed him, like, you could have stopped it, and whatever. Like it would have been there were so many possibilities on that dance floor. It was such a great moment of like something big is happening right now, and like I just thought it was going to be this simple thing of someone on the screen is going to die. And they did something so much bigger character-wise than that, and we don't lose anybody. It moves the story forward. Like so many cool things happen this episode. Finding out that BB knows that he was the number one suspect in Ben Urich's death, and that she is writing other things under a pseudonym to try to like to get the truth out, even if she's not able to do it herself. So now she's becoming this political player way more than Ben ever was. Ben was this like very honest, I'm a journalist, I'm out front with it, I'm telling the truth, but I'm not going to compromise. And she's trying to play this like political game where she's trying to move up the ranks politically while supplying the truth to the people anyway. Like that's a fun like little subversive thing for her. The swordsman just being brought in as like showing the results of Fisk's corruption, and like the power of Fisk's corruption. I thought for sure we'd get like the swordsman doing something as the swordsman, but no, he was just like there to be extorted, and that was effective for me because I was like, oh, that vigilante just got told what to do because of all the powers that Fisk has put in place over people,
Yeah.
Sure. So good.
Just another pawn on the board for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up BB because I was really grateful for that exchange between her and the police commissioner as well. Because prior to that, some of her exchanges with Daniel, and it was just like, I don't know how this lands with me. The fact that she would be willing to kind of, push aside the fact that he threatened her and rub shoulders with him, just like, hey, we're climbing this ladder together, just felt so false. So to kind of get to see through the veil and that she's just, 2 steps ahead of Daniel and he, is kind of a schmuck, I found incredibly satisfying.
100%. When she turned around, he wasn't even in this moment, I don't think, but when she turned around and went back to the party and said, shots, it was such a like, oh, he has been falling for it. Like he thinks they're friends. He's believing in this version of BB that is not real. And so good. So good.
I love that they finally came out and just said it, because they're like they were they've made a lot of political parallels, I'd call it, to some modern day politics. And
watch yourself, Jeff.
The
comments.
That whole always punch Nazis thing, And when the commissioner's like, when did you become his minister of propaganda? And she's like, I guess about the same time that you became the minister of his SS, or the leader of his SS. And I was like, oh shit, they're going straight up for Nazi party here? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, hot take, Marvel.
And we saw how far and how corrupt this group is being when they, like, just because someone took a picture in the party. Like, that's just like paparazzi stuff. And he boiled the guy's hand. And like doing it in a way, like, it wasn't like they were fighting and he had to win the fight. He did it and he said, you're going to have a hard time wiping your ass for the rest of your life. And then he boiled his hand. That is dark, evil, like, I want to hurt this person forever kind of stuff. And it is so disgusting. Ugh.
Yeah. I was retroactively disgusted with myself for ever even postulating that there was anything redeemable about Powell, because I remember it was the trial of Hector Ayala, and when he was on the stand, and there was that moment where I was like, oh, is he conflicted about lying on the stand? No. All of that is off the table. This guy is a piece of shit.
Yeah. He is, absolutely. But, you know, that is also the purpose of this show and so many superhero things. Like, everyone is redeemable in some way. That's what Daredevil believes. Sure. But of course, I don't necessarily agree with him. I do at my core believe that to be true. But I
hope that.
I hope that. That's a better way of putting it. I want to believe that, but it pushes Matt so far in this episode that it's just like, how can you let yourself get shot for Fisk? My only, like, little bit of comic booky logic here is that Matt knew that bullet was going to Fisk's heart. You know, like, he knew that was happening. He knew that was death. And he knew, as Daredevil, that he could put his shoulder in the way and take the bullet in a way that wouldn't kill him, you know? So Matt's laying on the ground. Red covers the dance floor in a very Daredevil, such a comic booky moment when Red just covers the dance floor. Oh, so good. And, but he knew he's not going to die. You know, that's my only, like, sort of, it makes it more logical for me that he would do this.
Yeah, that absolutely felt splash page, like, last panel of the book. Like, oh my God, I have to get next month's issue.
Yep. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. I think the comparisons to the comic book medium and the splash page there is appropriate, but in the moment I found myself, like, the whole scenario, the dance and the tuxes, I was like, this kind of feels like a spy thriller.
Oh yeah,
a little bit
with the BB element as well, like,
of course,
finding out she's also wearing a mask, you know.
Yeah. Yep. And then, you know, not to be too surface level about it, but even, like, Heather's dress kind of reminded me of, like, almost like a 60s style dress with a little collar, like you could see a Bond girl wearing, you know, a dress like that.
Yeah. And speaking of Bond, like, the Bond villainy of the villain of the piece coming out in that straight white suit with his red dress companion. The white suit is back. He got his new wardrobe, or his old wardrobe, whatever. And them dancing. It was just this iconic moment. And I thought that was going to be the most iconic thing. Like, I was like, that was on the Disney Plus banner for me. There was a picture of them.
Thumbnail of the episode.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, well, look at that. Yeah, that looks like it's going to be an iconic moment where he comes out and dances. And it was. And it not just as, like, a visual thing, but Matt watching him dance and seeing that he has amassed so much power and just sitting on the edge, eventually knowing that she got Foggy killed, all this stuff. Him sitting on the edge and just fuming and not being able to do anything about it, and watching the villain who has had so many people killed just dancing around. And it's just like, he has all the power. He has all the status. He wins. He gets everything. And Matt has to stand there and take it and then save him. I just, I love it so much.
And not only was he dancing in front of him, he was whispering, like, while dancing with Vanessa, he was whispering to Matt across the dance floor.
Yes.
What did you expect to find here tonight, devil? Like,
oh, so good.
Oh, that was so great that he knew. Oh, he knew that Matt would hear him. And he was like, oh, he got all this special, great hearing. Like, let me use that to my advantage to just taunt, just poke him, just poke the bear a little bit more.
Ugh. Heather is going to be so freaked out this next episode. Because me and my fiance were talking about earlier today, and we were like, the idea that, like, Heather has just gonna have big trust issues when she finds out who her clients are. She already found out about Muse and almost got killed. Now I have a feeling she's gonna learn more about Fisk as this next episode develops. And she is gonna find out that her boyfriend is Daredevil. Like, I think all that's gonna get laid out for her, and it's gonna be like world rocking, you know.
Sure.
And then to add to that, this moment where he saves him and like, I don't know, the whole thing is just insane. Like, she knows he's not listening, but she has no idea that like he's living this whole spy world. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Maybe I should use that excuse for, when I'm not listening to my partner. Just be like, no, I was listening across the dance floor to other conversations. I heard there was a bird or something.
I was grimacing for Matt in those moments. It was like, come on, man. You gotta do the vigilante thing better than this. You have to listen for a little bit.
Yeah. You gotta be able to split your attention better, man. Come on.
Just like, you're not even.
Oh man, when the music from the band started like melting while Matt was fuming, looking at that was such a great choice, because it was not only diegetic music, but it was diegetic and live. So it's a band. It's not even like the tape could be messing up. It had to be in Matt's head, and knowing that we've seen as he changes his point of view throughout this entire season, what we hear changes. So like, like when he tunes in, you can hear him kind of tuning through the audience, and things will come into focus and come out of focus, and things kind of change their timbre when he zooms in on them. When Fisk was talking to him across the dance floor, it had almost this like AM radio vibe to it, where like he was speaking through the crowd, And so the idea that his like emotions were bubbling up and it was affecting, it was almost like this acid trippy thing of the band was like, it's like, oh man, this is cool. It's just such a dark moment.
Yeah, and I don't know if they did anything visually in that moment, but I know when you started to hear, or you heard Matt listening to Poindexter's rifle, get locked and loaded and everything like that, they did almost like the fisheye kind of effect that I know they did back in episode 1 in the bar sequence there.
They did. It's something they've done twice. They did it in the bar sequence, and they did it here. They not only did the fisheye and the zoom out thing, but they also changed aspect ratios at the same time. So like it went to a thinner aspect ratio and then went back out when he's focusing.
I didn't pick up
it's
on
something
that.
they did in the first episode. I didn't catch it in the first episode, but I caught it here because I was, I guess, more attuned to it because I'd heard about it.
Okay.
Sure. But yeah.
I just noticed it happening. That's all.
Well, just a scene that came to mind to me was, since we've been focusing so much on Matt and kind of how some of the filmmaking lent itself to really putting us in his state of mind and his senses. The scene in Josie's where they're drinking the whiskey, and he comes to the realization, hey, Foggy was celebrating early. It was done so well. I like, similarly to those final few seconds where my mind was racing, like who's going to get taken out. In that moment, I was like, who was it? Who was responsible for taking out Foggy? And I thought it was Kirsten for a moment.
Me
like
too.
My mind went everywhere. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't just everywhere. It was that he went to that moment and he was having some realization about what happened to Foggy, and it cut to him drinking with Kirsten, and it was like, wait. Right. Like, I was like, did Kirsten swap the liquor? Did, like, she put something else in there? I don't know. Did she drug him or somehow?
Fake his death?
Did Foggy fake his death? Like, that was all in my brain. Yeah. And Jeff, I'm sure you may know this just from comics, but or have heard people talking about it in the Discord. There's a comic book where Foggy fakes his death, and as they're walking
number
out,
was visible.
Yeah, the number of that comic was visible on the apartment as they walked away, or the new Nelson and Murdock as they're walking away from the building. The number was visible, and so there's been a lot of people speculating, but I don't believe it, because I think the 1 year later thing makes it seem not possible to me. But like, yeah, it would be a real dick move if Foggy has disappeared for a year and not told Matt where he is.
Oh my god, it'd be so funny though. Like, if he came back and was like, man, I see how easy it is to just not talk to anybody when they think that you're dead. I see how you did it, Matt. Wow.
How's it feel?
Right. That's a good point. Yeah, he's like, yeah, you can't say anything to me. What are you talking about? You did this. You did the same thing. That's a really
At
good
least
point.
I did it for a purpose. Because I had to make people think that I was dead. You did it just being a dick.
You know what in this episode made me fear Buck?
Ooh.
That I thought was really fun. And it was very subtle, but I loved it.
Was it the head tilt where he looked into the apartment for that brief second as he was at the door?
Right before that, he knocks and Daredevil is surprised, which means Daredevil didn't hear him coming. And Daredevil kind of freaks out. You hear the knock at the door and Matt goes, like runs to the door, and he's really surprised to hear the knock at the door because Daredevil always knows who's coming. He hears people come down the hallway.
Yeah.
He did not hear Buck. Buck is apparently stealthy dude.
That is a great catch.
That is a good
really
call.
Good.
And that freaked him out, and then he goes there and sees it's, that for Heather, and that Fisk knows Heather's there, and all this stuff, and it's just, that scene was such a great setup for the episode. I loved it.
Yeah, because I obviously caught on to the fact that Matt was clearly put on edge. Like, he immediately starts interrogating Heather, like, how do you know that guy? How does he know that you live here? And I took that as distrust of Heather, but I think you're right. He was so unnerved by the unexpected arrival and the revelations there within. Yeah, really good stuff.
Yeah. It's really offensive. Matt is saying, like, the only reason they'd come to you is for me. Not for your professional, like, abilities or whatever, not because your books relate to their issues. It's like the only reason he would be in contact with you at all is because he's obsessed with me. And, like, I don't think that's true. I think this is, I don't know. It may very well be just a coincidence, but it also feels too big.
There's always underlying something with Fisk.
Mm-hmm. Dude, Fisk and Vanessa, I mean, we haven't even talked about another humongous scene from this episode, which is Vanessa killing Adam.
Yeah.
What?
Two to the chest, one to the head. Like a champion.
Yeah. She like that. Who was it? That Olympic shooter that went out there with, like, no...
the guy from France. I can't remember his name.
Was it France?
Yeah.
Okay,
it was Turkey. It was Turkey.
Turkey. Was Turkey? You're right. It was Turkey.
Yeah. That Turkey shooter in the Olympics who walked out with no gear, like, that was Vanessa. I was like, damn, like,
like,
and then the one to the head was
in the
really,
pocket.
Oof.
Yeah. And then the way that scene ended was you have Vanessa and Fisk embracing that their arms basically frame Adam's dead face, which I was like, it's kind of morbid but great.
It looked like almost like an end of a Looney Tunes episode or something. Like the thing narrowed down because their bodies came together, and it just focused on his dead face behind them. Oh, it's such a good moment. That's all, folks.
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that they went that far, because it wasn't like Fisk even asked. Fisk was clearly asking her to do this. They didn't say it out loud, but that's what he wanted. He was like, I wish I'd written down more of the lines, because he's just like, here, you got to choose, kind of like this. We can't, like, she knows they can't let him go. Like, he's been torturing him in a basement for months. Like, you can't let him go. That would end us. And so basically he gives her the key, and is like, you're basically, you got to choose me or him. He's going to die, or I'm going to get, my life destroyed. Like, which do you want? And she just shoots him.
He says, if I can't be with you, I cannot be.
Yeah, that line, man. That's line.
A good one.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
Take notes, gentlemen.
Yeah.
I wish. Yeah.
I'm better than I was. I am. You said don't kill him. I didn't kill him.
Some Shakespeare right there. I have to go back and rewatch the scene. I couldn't, because we were going to hop on for this immediately afterwards, but I'm wondering if I missed something. But we were talking with last week's episode with the taking out of Luca. Was Vanessa a part of that, or did she allow it to happen, or what exactly was going on there? And I kind of came away with the impression that they didn't discuss it, but she knew that was the inevitable outcome. She was like, I'm going to sick Luca on him, and he's not going to be happy about it, but it effectively takes care of this problem for me. He is, I think she called him like a punk chasing the throne.
Yeah, he was a punk playing at a throne.
Right. So I felt like that conversation was them finally getting on the same page, whereas they were not previously.
I took it differently.
Okay.
I took it as the way they discussed it this episode, like all that stuff with Luca, blah, blah. There was not if she had been actually betraying him and they weren't collaborating on that entire thing, I think we would have needed to see that conversation of them being, I think it's almost a betrayal of us to not let us in on that conversation. I have to assume, based on the way they talked about it this episode, they talked about it very much like it was a thing they went through together, I think. And so I'm pretty sure they were confirming that was all part of the plan, that her texting him his location was part of the plan. That's how I took this episode. I may be wrong, but
yeah. I mean, I still think it's open for interpretation, but it was kind of like, I felt like Vanessa was basically saying, I do this, I know you're going to do this, so we didn't have to talk about it. It was going to be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's how I took it, was that Fisk, she and Wilson didn't say, okay, you're going to be there, Buck's going to be hiding in the shadows, I'm going to send him, and then Buck's going to kill him. That wasn't the setup necessarily, but Vanessa knew what would happen sending Luca there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like sending Luca there without alerting him still feels like, telling him where he is alone. He's not alone, but telling him where he is and everything feels still like it's a bigger deal. But yeah, I do think it's open to interpretation, like Scoot said.
We weren't necessarily let in on her informing Buck and Wilson, because she could have been like, well, Luca's coming by, he's mad, he's probably going to want to kill you, whatever precautions you got to take, just defend yourself. We didn't see that could have happened at the very least.
Yeah, that's what I think happened. I think that he asked, how much do you want to be involved? Do you want to help, or do you just want to, are you asking for my permission or for my help? And he says, that's up to you. And I think that she went back and said, well, he wants my help killing you. So you guys want to,
y'all figure it out.
All right. Let me know where to send him and when, and I'll do that.
Sure. I do feel like we need to, we have to talk about the interrogation sequence at some point. Whoop. But before we get there, I had to call out a turn of phrase that I had to take note of. And it was when I felt like Matt was having maybe the only authentic moment he's had with Kirsten, or one of the very few authentic moments where he's frustrated and he's venting, and he says, we're effectively babysitting chaos. And I was like, ooh, I love that.
That's a good line.
Use that for something. Babysitting chaos is so good, because that is effectively what all our heroic characters are doing. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not serving justice, we're babysitting chaos. And I mean, this lines up very much with the conversations we've talked about many times with him and Punisher, where, that's kind of what Daredevil's always doing with not going far enough, not taking out his enemies. And that's kind of what I think that Frank would say that to Daredevil about what he's doing even as Daredevil,
Yeah.
You're not serving justice, Red. You're babysitting chaos.
This all. I can't talk about all this stuff without mentioning Joker and the Batman.
Oh, of course.
This is all the very same conversation where Batman will not kill the Joker, even though the Joker has killed so many people, and if he just killed him before, he would have saved so many lives. But he just it's his code. He won't do it. And I always loved that code, and I enjoy those stories. But there's something about Matt with this. Bruce just has a code. Bruce Wayne just has this code of I don't kill. Guns killed my parents. I'm not going to kill. It's not for me to do. In some
also
versions.
What helps separate him from his enemies. It's I have this line. They don't have that line.
100%. But there's something about the depth of Matt's refusal to kill, tying in the religion and the law, having these three parts of himself really make him such a rich character. And I've seen that Batman story play out many, many times, and I love it. I'm not complaining about the Batman story, but there's something so much more rich here because of these sort of three wolves within him pulling him in different directions. And I love the Matt Murdock character so much. And this
All of
episode
them were howling.
is why. Yeah. Feed them all, Matt. Feed them all.
He's trying, man. He's burning the candle at both ends, breaking it in half and burning it in the middle too. Did you guys notice the like real subtle oneer in the party at the very beginning of the
No, I missed it.
the party? When it was going to like around the room, it started with Sheila and Gandolfini were talking. Daniel. They were talking, and then he's like, yeah, I was worried that we weren't going to be on the same side, but now, I'm not so worried, whatever. He walks off, camera swoops in and changes angle, and we focus on a different conversation. And then it swoops some more, and we see a different conversation with, like, I think it was Duquesne and someone named Artemis. And he's like, where's Arthur? And then, like, swoops in, we get a different conversation. It was, like, a
That's
really
cool.
subtle little oneer around the dance floor with, like, people coming and going, Heather on the phone, Vanessa talking to Heather. Like, it was really nicely, like, well crafted, I found.
I love that because of the classy party vibe. That reminds me a little bit of the oneer, which was an action sequence. So it's a little different, but the oneer in Black Panther.
Yes.
The first one where they're in the casino and they do the upstairs
casino
to downstairs and go around and see all the different interactions. I love that oneer.
Yeah.
One way I thought this was going to go when he was talking to Poindexter, we talked about wanting to talk about that scene. When he's talking to Poindexter, and Poindexter's like, I got to get outside if you want me to tell you the truth. If you want me to tell you what's going on, this is a negotiation. Like, tell me, get me out of here, and I'll tell you. Then he gets him sent to the infirmary. I thought that, like, we were going to get Daredevil popping into the infirmary to get him out. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that's what we were about to see.
The second he said, "Thank you, counselor," I was like, I wrote down in my notes, loose tooth. And then I later wrote, called it. So what I talked about earlier in the episode, there were certain things that I called. That was one of the things I called, but it was super satisfying. I was like, yeah, there was a reason he said, "Thank you, counselor."
Oh, man, that's cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming
I didn't
at
catch
all.
that. Yeah, no, I didn't see that coming at all. I don't even think I realized, and this is stupid because now it feels obvious. I didn't realize that was a loose tooth that he shot out. Like, I didn't know if I didn't know what he shot out of his mouth. I couldn't tell if it was a part of what they were working on him with or whatever, and he got it somehow in his mouth. But no, you're right. Totally a loose tooth, and that's beautiful.
Yeah. I kept thinking that, like, he's going to get hold of a needle. He's going to use the stitches somehow. Like, he's going to do something he's going to make a projectile out of something. And he did. It was just his tooth.
Part of himself.
Yep.
That was a really great scene. The interrogation of Poindexter and trying to get him, trying to get him to tell the truth. And I think the reveals were so good and strong in this. My problems with last week's episode were not the style of the episode. It felt like such a big change of course. And I think that's what happened. I think that, like, the original show was basically episodes 1 through 6 with some new scenes added. And then episode 7 was the first of the completely new writers. And it was like the Titanic turning around. They were like, kill Muse, change course. Let's set up our own ending that we want for the last 2 episodes, And that's how it felt to me. And I think that's why I didn't like it. It just didn't feel like it was serving character. It felt like it was the Titanic turning around. It felt like somebody was just massively spinning the wheel for me.
Which I acknowledge is a fair criticism. If, like, and 9 times out of 10, I'm with you. I'm looking for the character arc. I'm looking for the complete journey there. But I guess, like, just in the context of the whole show, I had a sense. I was like, okay, this is kind of like, I'll bring up the MCU at large again. Like Iron Man 2, Age of Ultron. Sometimes the criticisms that they get is that they were, they had to be that piece of the puzzle that moved things around to set us up for satisfying conclusions. And I got that sense in the episode. I was like, okay, we're taking Muse off the table prematurely, but there's a reason for that. And for my purposes, I think it's working, and I'm pretty happy with where we're at this point in the season.
I think so too.
Still minor issues along the way, but pretty good.
Well, it's really interesting. If anybody wants to go back and look at the final season of Daredevil, the last episode is Vanessa, Poindexter, Matt, and Fisk in a room together. and they're having this big showdown.
The brawl.
And this big brawl between the three of them, and like Fisk is threatening to out him, and Matt's like trying to keep himself from killing Fisk, and Fisk is basically daring him to. Like it's a really intense scene, and like this episode is an answer to that final scene. Like, not only will I not kill you, I will save you. Like, I will fight for you too. And it is just such a great like parallel with those four being back in the room together. And it's such a great like through line with bringing all those characters back. And a lot of times that's what shows do, is they kind of set up something in the previous finale that you kind of get these questions raised, and you really don't get an answer till the next finale. You know, like these sort of these shows operate as, the seasons operate almost as sequels to each other. And so it was cool to see. It was just really cool. It felt very much like they were going directly back to season 3 of Daredevil and be like, what do we need to touch on here? What would push these dynamics further? And so, yeah, I'm right there with you. I think this show in episode 7 really came back to being like a show that is very deliberately trying to be an extension of the Daredevil series. It just, yeah. And now that they're there, now that they've landed on this new storyline and then they're no longer changing course, it feels really earned to me.
You mean episode 8, not 7?
Episode 8 does. 7 was the one that felt like it was changing. Yeah.
They helped with that in this episode with just one specific camera shot when Wilson and Vanessa, the Fisk family, if you will, first Fisks, I don't know, when they were going into his bunker, they passed that painting, the rabbit in a snowstorm, with the blood spatter on it. They just hung right there.
That's a great call.
And she paused and noticed it, like, oh, it's here. Yeah. This is where you've had this.
That has been throughout the season in that room, but that I think that focus on it was, again, a call out to like, this is an extension of that last episode of Daredevil. Like, this is very much a through line. Really cool.
Well, following that thread, I know we're not here to necessarily speculate about the final episode, but what do you think the likelihood that Karen shows back up, given that Matt will very likely be hospitalized, at least for some portion of the next episode? Maybe she comes to visit him.
I think it's likely. I think it's been likely that she'd be here for more than just what she was. And yeah, you're right. This really opens up the door. Also, last episode, when he mentioned his previous life, he mentioned, Heather mentioned Karen. And there was this moment where Matt says, Foggy, and then she says, and Karen. And it was almost like there was a touchy subject there. Like he didn't want to bring up Karen to Heather. You know what I mean? Like, it's his ex. It just felt like there was something there. And so I'm wondering if when she shows up, that will be like the nail in the coffin for that relationship, which is already on the rocks.
I don't mean to laugh at this, like during this like pretty serious moment, but I just had this hilarious image in my head of Matt waking up in the hospital and Foggy is sitting right next to him, says, on your left.
That would be amazing. And terrible.
Post credit for Doomsday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's read a couple of these feedbacks before we get out of here. Waterfall Angel says, do we think Fisk kidnapped Arthur, husband of Artemis, the blonde lady? Absolutely. Yes, I do.
Oh,
yeah.
For sure.
A message had to be sent.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I'll phrase it correctly. A message had to be sent.
There was she was one of the main characters who was like, this is not happening. This Red Hook project, no way. And now we see that she has someone that's missing or that's not around, and Fisk has made the Red Hook project happen somehow. So like, yes, I think she absolutely was involved.
Yep.
Or like he was involved with that. David Brewer says, Vanessa killing Adam was a real surprise.
I think so too.
Me too.
I don't. I kind of had mixed feelings on like whether or not she was going to do it or how she was going to do it, because I kept thinking like, if she's going to do this, it's going to tie back in to how she talked about her mother in the counseling session, because she kept saying, or she said about her mother that like she resented her mother for being weak, and and not being a strong woman. And like, I was thinking, like, Adam being here pleading like this, she's just going to be like, oh, you're just like my mother, so weak, so frail. Like, I don't want that in a person. And then, she would either kill him or like tell Wilson to go ahead and kill him or, whatever, like Buck, handle it, like whatever the case. But she was just going to throw him away in some way because of that, apparent weakness.
Interesting. Yeah. I definitely think there's something there. I think it was definitely a moment for her to choose her allegiance. And I don't think that Adam was ever anything. I think that Adam was somewhat important to her, and like
he was just some dick.
Side piece.
Just a little side piece, that's all.
But I do think that like she had a real relationship with him, but it was not her. He was not her man. He was a placeholder while Fisk was away, and now that the Fisk relationship is rebuilding, and they're working it out, man. They're doing the work of their relationship.
Yeah, they're doing something.
You love to see it. You love to see therapy helping.
Yeah. I think it was at the end of episode 6. I'm pretty sure it was. That's when we had the sequence where Fisk gave Adam the axe and gave him the opportunity to try it and take him on. And at the end of that episode, I wasn't sure if Adam was still alive or not. And it was, the next couple of episodes after that, I wondered, does Vanessa know that he's dead? And if so, is she happy about that? Does she respect Fisk for that? Because even though she told him, she pleaded with him, don't kill him. I think that was episode 1, episode 2, and he says, I won't. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I thought, that's not Fisk, and I think she knows that about him, and I think she wouldn't respect him fully, like allowing that kind of slight against his persona or, who he is. But ultimately, I think what it did for the character is, we know she has this background as an art collector, and she's, with season 3 and now this episode, she's clearly made the decision to get more involved in the criminal side of things. And now she has Fisk and Adam right there. And of course, Adam's, like to your point, Jeff, he looks very weak. He's behind bars. He's pleading. And it's just like, do I choose this life or do I choose that life? And this, Fisk there he strikes a very powerful and confident figure. So it kind of makes sense. She's made her bed now and there's no going back.
Absolutely. As much as I don't know. I'm torn as to whether there's a bit of like almost grooming that Fisk is doing towards Vanessa, where she's pushed herself into this life, and in that moment he kind of brings her in, and it's like, you have to choose, and pushes her to do this really terrible thing to someone that she really cared about. And like, I'm torn between like whether it's just her agency. And that's like you, and I do think that it is that. I think it's her making the decision to fully embrace that version of herself. But it's sort of like Fisk is kind of forcing that choice and being like, no more straddling the line. Like you got one life or the other. You got to choose, and so
you have to kill some part of yourself.
Yeah.
Something's ending here. It's either Adam, it's me, or it's you. So make your choice.
Oh man, that would be so brutal. If she was just like, I can't choose, and like killed herself. Like, what does Fisk do?
Fisk was very quick to grab the gun from her afterwards, and I wonder, was that a measure of precaution for his own safety or her safety?
Yeah, for hers. Wow.
She's killing people in here. I gotta handle this.
Wow, interesting.
Let me take that from you so you don't use it on me.
I didn't catch that. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah, she just takes out everybody and is just like, I'm leading everything. I don't need none of y'all.
It's her show now. Everyone's dead.
She goes and kills Matt Murdock. She
goes all John Wick, just takes out the whole room.
I don't work for the man. I work for Vanessa. Whatever you say.
Buck just appears out of the shadows. Whoa!
TV and Movie Guy says, why did they have to take Bullseye's custom handcuffs off to fix his teeth/mouth? I don't think they did. I don't think at all. But they have? I guess they had the handcuffs off. I don't really remember. But
he had his hands in his lap.
it was pretty silly of them to let him have any more freedom, especially if they believed that he had bashed his own face against the table, because that just seems like an obvious ploy to get. It was really dumb of them to allow him out of there.
Honestly, like the way that those cops were acting, it felt a lot like they would be people who wouldn't take him to the infirmary. They'd just be like, you smashed your face, whatever. Back to Gen Pop, hands bound, get in there. Good luck.
Well, this is just headcanon, but we know based on the phone call Buck had with that officer that was there that saw the carnage and knew he escaped, maybe they needed a plausible story, like, hey, because he was uncuffed, he made an attempt and we had to kill him, because their goal was to have Poindexter be dead by the end of that night, and he wasn't. So had his hands been bound the way they normally were, maybe that story wouldn't have held up, you know?
Yeah. That's why they took it off. Plot reasons.
For sure.
That's what it comes down to.
That's definitely why. But yeah, Josh says, I love how the blood splatter on Fisk's suit is reminiscent of his painting, and that's a really good call. Love that, Josh. Thank you. And then David Brewer says, love that in back-to-back episode it is the women that do the killing. It's true. It's true. It's a tradition on this show.
Yeah.
Karen was the first.
Yeah. I think does Elektra kill anyone? She tries multiple times.
I feel like Elektra kills like everyone.
She kills a lot of like
whoever she feels
fodder.
like.
Well, I think a lot of times she's fighting alongside Matt, and he won't let her kill. Is the thing.
He does try to stop her a lot. Yeah.
Like I remember there's lots of conversations where he's like, "Okay, I'll help you, but there's no killing. Like we'll go do this, but we're not killing anyone."
And she's like, "Fine."
Yeah, it's like, "Fine, Matthew."
I haven't seen Defenders in forever, but she killed Sigourney Weaver, right?
Oh, I don't remember.
I think
I don't remember at all.
Yeah,
how that ended.
I don't remember that series happening. I think they were talking about it coming out, and then it just never happened, right? Because I can't find it in my memory.
Yeah.
Except for that one episode where they were all together in the restaurant. That happened.
That was nice.
That was a great one.
Okay, yeah. And maybe
there's some fun stuff in there for sure. All right, well, that is going to be it for this week's episode, guys. If you're we'll be back to talk more Daredevil in a few days. We still have, for a few more days, about a week, we've got the PS5 giveaway still happening. So if you give us a rating or a review on Spotify or Apple, take a screenshot and send it to strandedpandacontest@gmail.com. You're entered to win a PS5 with 2 Marvel games, Spider-Man 2 and Rise of Hydra. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Do that.
Do that.
Do that. And I still have my songwriting project going. I am going to plan to do one this week. I apologize. This last week, I didn't get to have a day to do it. Which had a lot of family stuff happen. Can't decide whether I want to say this on the podcast or not. It feels too big and real to tell the podcast, but like I normally tell the podcast things that are big and real in my life, so I'm just gonna say it. My fiance has breast cancer, and we found that out about 2 weeks into Daredevil. And so the last few weeks have been a little wild, and this week was that's why I wasn't on Multiverse News this week, and why I couldn't get my song written. Gonna get back on the horse this week. I'm trying to let it not derail everything I'm doing, but like it is a lot going on in our lives. A lot more doctor's appointments and things happening.
Well,
so
it's been a while since I kissed some ass, but I will just say, I think I speak for a lot of people when I say I appreciate what you do, the work that you put into it, the network that you built, and obviously this is all escapism, but it pales in comparison to real life. So,
Yeah. And
we're with you.
Just to not seem too scary, the prognosis is good. It's just going to be a big, scary surgery coming up.
Yeah.
So, everybody, keep her in your thoughts and such, thoughts and prayers and all that, and send love vibes this way. But yeah. So that all to say, apologize for not getting that song out. I know there's not an apology necessary. I get it. But
how dare you?
I'm gonna try to get back on the horse this week and do this week's, and then I'm gonna finish the 3 missing episodes, the double episodes, and last week's after the series ends, so the album will still be happening.
I give you permission to just go ahead and do a cover of "Shot Through the Heart."
Shot through the heart. There's been a couple where I almost did like a cover type thing or like a parody type thing, but I ended up going a different way. But yeah, if you want to support that, it's strandedpanda.com/helpmatt. You can support the album, and we'll be doing that for the next few weeks after Daredevil. I'll still be releasing songs, and we'll be doing that. So love you all. Thank you for thanks for being here for all my life this last few years. A lot of big things, and you guys have been very kind, and lots of love has been sent this way, and I just appreciate everybody, including you two. Sorry to take the floor first, but I did want to say all that stuff. So you guys got anything you want to plug?
Oh, you mentioned Multiverse News. I won't be on this upcoming week, but still check it out and support that show. They're going to have a good one for you. While I'm on the Daredevil podcast, I'll take advantage of it. It's not something I plug a lot, but I do have an Instagram. It's at JScottyForReal. That's JSCOTTY 4 REEL. And I'm going to make a concentrated effort to put more art out there. I actually put a piece of Daredevil fan art that I'm pretty proud of. So go check that out if it sounds like your kind of thing.
Yeah,
your style looks reminiscent of Dan Hipp, who is...
I don't know who that is. I have to look him up.
He's pretty prominent in the Marvel Snap card art community.
I take that as such a great compliment because like I can't say that about it. I mean, the Marvel Snap artists are obviously super, super talented, but that's kind of like when I'm most proud of it when I'm looking at it. I'm like, that could work as like a nice, variant for something like Snap or something. So I appreciate that. That's very kind.
Yeah, it gives me those Dan Hipp vibes. But I totally the hips are my second least favorite. So don't take that too nice. Least favorite are the pixels.
I'm very influenced by, the art of like Gendy Tartakovsky, like your Dexter's Labs, your Powerpuff Girls, your Samurai Jacks and what have you. So I was like, kind of wanted to go for something like that.
That's super cool.
I can see that.
I love that you're doing that, man. We all love making podcasts, but we all have kind of like our own kind of arts that we want to do, and it's really fun to get to do them. And I mean, I've said it on the podcast before. I was really thankful for my partner because she was the one that like she was like, I know you have this idea, and I know you think you're too busy to do the Daredevil album, but she was like, just do it. Just make sure, like, and she took on a bunch of extra, like, taking the kid to school and doing all this stuff so that I could have my Wednesdays to write songs. And then all this happened, and it's like, oh, okay, we'll figure it out. We're still gonna try to make it happen, but it's a lot of crazy stuff. But getting to make art again has been really important to me.
You'll have to let Paige know she's indirectly responsible for the trickle down effect. You being inspired and putting art back in there, inspired me as well. So
yeah, I love that stuff. Man. I love that. Well, thank you, Paige. And get better.
I haven't been inspired to do shit, so let's let it trickle down some more, please. Pass it on. Inspiration on your left.
All right, so Jeff has nothing to plug because he's made nothing.
I've made only sadness. I've put stress into the world. That's all I've got.
Oh, big plug. We're going to be doing Last of Us on Always Watching, which we haven't mentioned anywhere yet. Yeah. But that's starting this week. Sunday, we're going to be trying to drop them, Sunday night, Monday morning kind of thing. So get them up quick. So check that out. That'll be fun. Always Watching everywhere you get podcasts. And we'll stop plugging things. We'll get out of here. Love you guys. Peace.
Until next time, true believers.
Hey, you just listened to the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast from Stranded Panda. I really hope you liked it. Let me just say a big thank you to all of our supporters on patreon.com/MCUcast. You are the lifeblood of our little operation here, and a huge huge thank you to our insanely generous Illuminati tier patrons, Walter Kreisky III, Lieutenant Bongo, and Jazz Viz. You guys are amazing. If you'd like to see our beautiful faces, you can catch a video version of many of our episodes at youtube.com/strandedpanda. Love you 3000, my friends.